speaking of you, the U tier, the unknown tier. So we have the U tier first, F through A tiers, and then your S tier. There's a small U tier, but there are two teams, in my opinion, that just we don't know.
Yep.
There's either too many new faces, too many guys coming back from injury that I just couldn't put them anywhere. And they are the Detroit Lions and the Arizona Cardinals. Detroit, the reason's obvious. You have Aiden Hutchinson coming back from a tib fib. You have Aleem McNeil coming back from a torn ACL. You have Marcus Davenport coming back from an elbow injury that ended his season in week 3 last year. So 3 of your starters are coming back from catastrophic injuries. And then you have, Tyreek Williams, who's a rookie. You have DJ Reader, who's over 30 years old at this point, like on the downside of his career. So there's a lot of unknown. I mean, if you just told me every single guy was fully healthy and would play the full season and was back to the form we last saw them in, this is truly an S tier unit. Like truly amongst the top 5 defensive front sevens in the NFL. But you can't promise me that right now, unfortunately. And I wish you could for Lions fans' sake, but without those guys, obviously, like there's still a very deep defensive line. They have other guys coming in there. It's not going to be a problem, but I just didn't know where to rank them in this. And then for the Arizona Cardinals, just the amount of new faces there. Calais Campbell, not necessarily new for Cardinals fans, but like obviously his first year back there. Josh Sweat, Dalvin Tomlinson, Walter Nolan, Jordan Birch, and then BJ Ojulari coming back from injury. He obviously had an injury preseason. I think it was an ACL. Didn't play all last season. And then Akeem Davis-Gaither at linebacker as well. So all these new faces that I love for the Arizona Cardinals. I think they end up as a B tier or better defensive front seven. But just we have no clue at this point what it's going to look like because of that, because of how many guys we just didn't see in this jersey last year.
I'm in full agreement with you on these 2 units. And as we've seen with the other positional breakdowns, the U tier can mean a lot of different things. It's kind of like the Joker, the wild card. It could be bad, but it could also be great. Like you put my Chicago Bears in the U tier, which makes sense offensively because of all the changes. Well, there's a lot of changes in Detroit from a health standpoint. There's hardware in people's legs. There's new muscle groups trying to get recruited for Aleem McNeil. Marcus Davenport, is he going to be able to lock out with that elbow? What is it more of a, is it more of a joint issue where strength is the issue now, or is it a range of motion issue? Length equals strength. And if you don't have that length with your elbow being not healthy, I'd be interested to see. Reader, same thing. And for the Cardinals, all just the same guys, the same guys. They don't have the luxury of having all the same guys back like Detroit. They've got a bunch of new guys in there. It remains to be seen. And just the fact that Calais Campbell's still playing, we cover this often, but it's unbelievable. At the end of the day, for the Lions, are you healthy enough to show out? Because you do have the ability to be in that high B, A, maybe even play your way into S tier if Aiden Hutchinson returns to form, which is something that you and I have also talked about. He's going to get there, but it may not be this year.
Yeah. And with Davenport, to add a little more context, it was a left elbow injury. And if you know anything about the Lions, Aiden Hutchinson plays on the left side. So he's going up against the right tackle. So that means Davenport's going to be exclusively on the right side. And any long arm, any sort of bull rush, any sort of rush entirely is predicated on that arm and the left elbow that he hurt. So if you're on the other side, it would be your right arm. But that is a big injury for a guy doing that. Like there was a point in his career where Marcus Davenport, I thought, was going to be a real big time player. Obviously, he's had so many injuries over the course of his career, but if he could recapture it, like there is the potential for eliteness here for the Lions. But I am just worried that those are all such big injuries that you may not get the exact same guys at this point in time. To flip to the Cardinals a little bit, I've discussed this a lot, why I'm very high on them this year, why I do think they are a team that has as good a shot as anyone to win the West. I think the West, it was wide open a year ago. I think it's just as wide open after this offseason. I know the 49ers have the easiest schedule, but the Cardinals don't have that hard a schedule either. And to me, how much Jonathan Gannon cobbled everything together when he had 0 defensive line, right? When he had no one, maybe not no one, but like Dennis Gardeck, who could rush the passer, how they still held the head above water defensively. Well, now they don't have to blitz to get pressure. Now I feel confident that this front four with, we haven't talked about Baron Browning, but throw him in there. He was a boon for them down the stretch last season with Zaven Collins as well. Like they have enough bodies, they have enough depth that it isn't going to be a blitz heavy team, and you're not going to be putting this young secondary on islands near as much. I think we see a big time. I think there's a world where this Cardinals team is a top 10 defense because of the guy pulling the strings in Jonathan Gannon.
And they have different archetypes. We talk about this with the receiver position. You want different guys that can do different things within your offense. Well, the same thing goes for a defensive front. You want an absolute mauler that's going to rip people's faces off with explosion and get off. And whether they're getting stats or not, it doesn't matter. They're just causing chaos. And then you've got, obviously, Calais Campbell, who, even if he loses a rush, it's a potential win because he's 8 foot effing tall, and he's just in the passing lanes, and also his length in the run game is exceptional. Josh Sweat, you need a real winner on the outside. So they went and they got that with Josh Sweat. And the Walter Nolan character is one of these do-it-all athlete types with great size and great strength. So if he can do a little bit of everything for this group, they could be great.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what the Cardinals look like this upcoming season. All right, there's your U tier. 2 teams. We're going to get through the F through A tier coming up right after this. All right, let's get to the F tier. I am going to roll through the names. I'm going to give a little explanation for it, and then you're going to give me who the most intriguing team of this group is in each tier, and then who you disagree with the most in terms of their placement. I will say, amongst all the exercises in terms of the position groups we've done so far, I feel like the tier is blurred together the most for me. It's just such a spectrum, and that's, I think, just a factor of how many people you're having to account for. It's not only your starting 4 defensive linemen, it's the couple of, the few guys who are going to be playing as role player backups. It's your, linebackers. So there is a lot of arguments to be made for these lists, and we'll get to, who I really struggle to rank when we get to them. So I'll start with this. Atlanta Falcons are in your F tier. This one doesn't seem too debatable. You are relying on, if you're relying on anyone to bring pressure. Now, Caden Ellis is awesome as an off-ball linebacker, one of the best blitzers in the league. I feel good about him still being able to do that. But you're relying on 2 rookie first-rounders who they themselves were not – this isn't like, they weren't Will Anderson coming out and Jalon Walker and James Pearce. These were guys who are, I don't want to say projects, but they were drafted for athletic tools, not for what they've already done on a football field. So Jalon Walker, James Pearce, Leonard Floyd, that's your edge group. Interior, Morgan Fox, David Onyemata, Ruka Rororo, that's your defensive interior. And then your linebacker group, Caden Ellis, Divine Diablo, Troy Anderson. I just don't see a ton of talent in terms of right now. 2 years from now, 3 years from now, sure. Right now, it's an F tier for me. Bengals, not a lot of explanation necessary here. You got Trey Hendrickson and then some guys, right? What you're hoping is that former first rounder Myles Murphy, current first rounder Shamar Stewart, that they make plays, that they perform better than expectation. I haven't seen enough of Myles Murphy to excite me in that regard. He really has not done anything through 2 seasons, but obviously the learning curve is different for everyone in the NFL. That's your hope. Now, what we've seen from them at this point does not inspire me. Chris Jenkins on the interior as well. And then your linebacking group, it's Logan Wilson and then rookie second rounder Demetrius Knight, obviously lost. Cut Jermaine Pratt this offseason. So for the Bengals, it was an F tier last year, and to me, they haven't done enough to change that this year. Just Trey Henderson. Titans, also in this group. Your edge, Draymond Jones, Arden Key, Olu Oladejo. Draymond Jones, after switching from DT to edge for the Seahawks, he looked like a fish out of water. It's a tough transition to make. I don't know about you. Have you ever seen anyone make that transition successfully from DT to the edge?
I have seen a number of guys go from the edge to defensive tackle.
I think that's easier.
Like rushing over the B gap. I remember when Aaron Lynch, and Aaron Lynch is a guy that could be cut like a 3 technique, but he was athletic enough to play on the edge. When he came to Chicago, he moved inside because Khalil Mack was obviously rushing over the right tackle or wherever the hell he wanted. And I was like, this guy's unblockable. But I can't really imagine a defensive tackle moving out to edge. Maybe Red Bryant is one of those guys that was just gigantic and played on the edge in Seattle. Let me figure out how big he was. He was 6'5", 326. He was a D tackle, but he lined up at the edge and was just collapsing pockets. So if you want a guy that's just going to smush the pocket, great. But if you want somebody that can be a fully functional, cover the swing back, rush the passer, stay high side, don't lose contain, you're going to want these defensive ends, outside linebacker types.
Yeah, I remember Mike Neal made that transition for the Green Bay Packers. Never really worked out. It's just tough to do. And that's why, obviously, he's with the Titans now. Your interior, this is your saving grace for the Titans fans. Jeffrey Simmons, Devondre Sweat, one of the better interiors in the entire NFL. That's what you have to hang your hat on. After that, Cody Barton, Otis Reese at linebacker, not much to speak of there. And then your last team in the F tier, it's Carolina Panthers. I don't think I'm breaking any ground here. They were the worst defense in the NFL last season by a lot of metrics. A lot of it was obviously because Derek Brown went down. Hopefully your DTs look a lot different this year with him back. Turk Wharton now in the fold coming over from Kansas City. Your edge group, it's young. You drafted Nick Scorton in the second, Princely Emmanuel in the third. DJ Wanham is probably your best returning pass rusher, but he's nothing great to speak of. Your linebacker group of Trevin Wallace, Josie Jewell, this isn't anything. There's just no impact players. Your biggest impact player is coming off a major injury that made him miss all last season. So there is your 4 teams in the F tier.
Yeah, I mean, we're in agreement for most of these. The most intriguing one to me is the Atlanta Falcons. You talked about Jalon Walker, Leonard Floyd, James Pearce. You said a lot of these guys were drafted for their athleticism and their tools, their traits. I was there when we drafted Leonard Floyd in Chicago from the University of Georgia. And I remember getting a phone call from my dad being like, Kyle, you guys just got an absolute diamond level player because he can cover tight ends. He can, cover the swing running back. He's never going to get beat outside. He can run like a deer and he can rush the passer and plays the run with great length. All these guys are kind of that. And I put in my notes, all drafted for athleticism if they put it together type guys. Mm-hmm. Now, every unit should have probably one if they put it together type guy, but they don't need 3 of them. And if you're reliant on these guys who are do it all but do nothing exceptionally well, your unit is going to be exactly where you have them here in the F tier. The one group that I would have some disagreement with, just because I've played the interior of the offensive line, and I know how hard it is to move guys like Devondre Sweat and get after guys like Jeffrey Simmons week in, week out. I do think that health and obviously health on the back end of this defense and success of the offense will be a huge determining factor for how this unit can play, because Jeffrey Simmons on third down is tough to handle, obviously in the run game as well.
Yeah, I agree with the Falcons for sure. I think that, today's NFL, these athletes, I think it's easier for them to make an impact right away just because of what defense they're doing on third down, or on pass downs. And not even third down. We say third down, but like passing situations,
second and 7.
Second down. Yeah. Like it's completely changed how defense coordinators approach, calling their defenses in today's day and age. That just like you run a lot of rushes for edge guys like a Jalon Walker, like a James Pearce. It's kind of just be an athlete. When you're looping on the interior on a stunt, it's just about how fast can you get there, and those guys can get there in a hurry. So I trust Raheem Morris to put them in a position to succeed right away. Let's get to the D tier. Short D tier, small D tier. Only 3 teams. That did not say that correctly, but they're the Los Angeles Chargers are your first team. They have the worst interior defensive group in the NFL. You obviously have Khalil Mack. Tuli Pelotu isn't a bad player, even if he's not
I like him.
High-end pass rusher. He's a solid player. The saving grace for them to get them out of the F tier was their linebacker group, in my opinion. One of the best in this regard in the NFL. Junior Colson, Diane Henley, Denzel Perriman, an A-plus unit. But I am worried about that defensive interior. That's why they get into the D tier. Commanders, Dorrance Armstrong, Dietrich Wise, your edge rushers. Interior, Deron Payne, Javon Kinlaw, Johnny Newton. Your saving grace, another team where this linebacking core suite against the run, great pass rushers. It is a Frankie Louvu and Bobby Wagner make this unit all work with what they can do on the second level, but still not a true one-on-one winning sort of defensive line. Hopefully Johnny Newton can change that in year 2, but we shall see. And then Dolphins are the last one. And this one's just because of injury. You have Bradley Chubb, who didn't play all last year after an ACL. You have Jalen Phillips, who just tore his ACL. Like, that is who you're hanging your hat on. Chop Robinson, awesome for rookie. I expect a step from him in year 2. He's going to be an impact player on the edge. Zach Sealer, an impact player on the interior. Jordan Brooks, a great run defender at the second level. Like, they have players in this unit for sure, but just too many question marks, too many holes. I can see an argument for them being higher, but for right now, they're going in the D tier.
Well, look, there's some really good players on this list. And as we've seen with the other position groups, you could have really good players and still end up towards the bottom of this tier list because it's all about the unit. It's about what you do in combination with one another. I do like what the Chargers have going on with the edge there. And Tui did a great job last year filling in when guys went down. He showed that Tui can really get after the quarterback. Khalil Mack is the Adonis that continues to just do his thing. I'm not even going to talk about the Commanders, but well, you know what? I will. It's the linebackers. It's Louvu and it's Wagner. And I remember playing against the Vikings defense when Zimmer was the coach. It was Anthony Barr, and it was, Eric Kendricks. And they never had world-beating defensive fronts. You know, the front four were never world-beating guys, but with their double-A mug ability, their ability to muddy up the run game, be in the passing lanes, it was frustrating to play against that type of defense. So regardless of who the Commanders have up front, I know with those two linebackers and their multiplicity, their ability to do so many things and set the tone, it'll be great. Same thing with a guy like Deion Henley in Los Angeles. He's all over the field, a lot of fun to watch.